everyone. Welcome to the October National Online Chapter Meeting of the Building Designers Association of Australia. My name is Jennifer Binns and I'm a building designer based in Tasmania, and Sarah Jane is with me managing the Zoom technology. Please let us know where you're logging in from in the chat box, and please feel free to post comments throughout the meeting. Thanks for joining us. So the countdown is on, with less than a month to go until the BDAA National Design Festival to be held in Melbourne, noting that this is the only building design and thermal performance assessors conference in Australia this year. So if you're still thinking about registering, just do it. If you haven't already purchased your ticket and you're online today and would like to attend, please direct message Sarah Jane and she will arrange for the members' super early bird ticket to be extended to you as a result of being at today's meeting. The conference is worth 20 CPD points for designers who attend, and then there's 6 technical CPD and 6 knowledge CPD points for thermal performance assessors. Sarah Jane will post some links for the conference in the chat box for you. Remember too that on the Thursday night there is a trade show which is open to all designers, and you don't need to be attending the conference. Entry is free, but registration is a must. BDAA have brought together a great lineup of exhibitors that you probably haven't previously seen, and there are going to be thousands of dollars worth of giveaways during the evening. So Thursday night's the trade show, conference is held Friday and Saturday, and design awards are held on the Saturday night. So it's great to see some comments coming through. Welcome everyone. Our 2 presentations today are from speakers who will be presenting at the conference, and they'll be giving us an introduction as to what to expect at the conference. Before we get started though, just a quick run through of the Zoom tools. You can ask questions throughout the meeting using the Q&A box. They can either be answered by the presenters during the meeting or they might be answered at the end. And you can upvote other people's questions. And you can also ask questions via audio with the raise your hand tool. We just ask that you check there's no background noise that will interfere with the audio when we unmute you. And the chat box is there as a continuous message thread for comments, and Sarah Jane will use the chat box to post links. Questions can get missed in the chat box, so make sure that you post questions in the Q&A box and comments in the chat box. That should all make sense. So our first presenter today is Jane Hilliard, who is a fellow Tasmanian from Designful. Jane's aim is to create change and lessen our impact on the planet through the built environment, a challenging task. She strives to make good design available to more people while practicing enoughness. Enoughness is about understanding what you need to live a healthy, happy, reciprocal life with those around you and our environment, and not taking or using more than this. Her endeavours and passion for sustainability, integration, user wellbeing, affordable housing and buildability have created the foundations of what Designful provides. And today Jane is going to discuss what she'll be presenting at the conference and why you should be attending her workshop. Hi Jane, welcome.
Hello.
Are you ready to go?
Sure, yeah.
I'll hand over to you.
I'm going to just share my screen. That's okay. First of all, give me a moment.
No worries at all.
Okay,
Perfect.
how's that? Brilliant.
Yep, great.
So thanks, Jennifer. And hi, Sarah Jane there as well. So I'm Jane Hilliard, the director at Designful and Homeful, and I'm going to be speaking about enoughness at the upcoming Design Festival, which I think looks to be an excellent event, and I'm really grateful to be contributing. Thanks to everyone there. So I'm here in Lutruwita, Tasmania, and firstly I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the Palawa people and the original and enduring custodians of Lutruwita. So yes, I'm really looking forward to having this discussion with everyone, with you about enoughness and how it can contribute to the big discussion of lessening the built environment's impact on the planet and reducing carbon emissions. How enoughness might contribute to the conversation of rebuilding how we're approaching design at this point in time. So I plan to be speaking at quite a high level, thought-provoking discussion, and how that can filter down into all other areas of our work. And I'll be asking some questions and providing some thoughts and insights on how we might start to shift our thinking towards using less, helping our clients achieve their goals, and creating change for a regenerative future. So I believe one of the biggest questions we need to be asking right now at this tipping point is, what is enough And how do we practice this through our work? In the discussion with clients and within our industry, how can this question help our clients? How can it help the planet, and how can it help us? So today I'm just going to share one statistic that had a really big impact on me. And this is from Jason Hickel's book. It's called Less is More: How Degrowth Will Save the World. And this is a great book. And if you are quite interested in this, I encourage you to read it if you want to delve deeper. And I can put a link to that after if you like. So in wealthy countries, and Australia is one of them, we're using on average 28 tonnes of raw material and resources per person per year. Now that doesn't really mean much on its own, except that it's equivalent to about 14 cars worth of material per year. And maybe that's going to be more if you, say, build a home in that year. But it does mean a lot when we consider that ecologists have estimated that 8 tonnes per person per year is the amount that we can use and stay within safe planetary boundaries. And we're at a point in time where many of this planet's boundaries have already been crossed, and we're at a tipping point of crossing more that will have serious knock-on effects. So this means that in Australia, on average, we're using 3.5 times the amount of stuff the planet can safely support each year. And our homes are greatly contributing to this. So high-income countries like Australia are consuming the most raw materials from the earth and emitting the most carbon emissions. There's a direct correlation there. And my big question is, do we need to be using this much stuff? And is it contributing to our health and happiness? And how is it impacting on the future? Now that might seem a bit grim. It's some big stuff, but sometimes we need to know where we've got to know where we're going next. But at the festival, I hope to be sharing with you ideas and inspiration so that we can all start making a change, so we can start asking the question of what is enough with more confidence and more permission. So without going into too much depth, I'll be talking on the following things, asking some hard questions that require some honest answers. So we are consuming more than ever. We're on a hamster wheel of working more, to earn more, to consume more, to have bigger, better houses. But do we need to be subscribing to this way of living? How can enoughness set us up to make the best use of new technologies and materials and improve energy efficiency? How, as designers, can we help people consider what is enough and unsubscribe to excessive consumption? How can we contribute to creating systemic change through our work? And how can enoughness contribute to our health, happiness, and collective well-being? That enoughness isn't always about having less, but sometimes having more of what we truly value. How it's not our collective fault that we all want more, bigger, and better, but it's time to recognise that we live in a system that relies on this. And I'll be inviting you to consider other ways. So in my workshop on Saturday afternoon, which I'm really looking forward to, because that's where we get to delve deeper into this conversation. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts, answering nitty-gritty questions, seeing what we can discover together. And I think this is the bit that I'm looking forward to the most. So because most of us are going to be designers and creators there, I think we might get out some pencils and pens and put the idea of enoughness into action, give it a razz and look at some design ideas. How might we look at a brief and design what's enough? I'll share how I work with clients, how I talk about values, how important values are in determining what's enough, how to look at a brief through the lens of enoughness. And you might have a current project or part of a project that you'd like to bring to the table and explore in this workshop in a supportive environment. And I'll be really ready to answer any questions. So I'm so interested in what your questions and thoughts are on this topic, so I can tailor this workshop to answer them and to see what we can discover together. And I'm also really keen to hear now if there's any specific questions or anything in particular that is going to be really interesting for everyone that we can explore about enoughness together. And yeah, that's it for now, if that's enough for now.
Thanks, Jane. I personally am really looking forward to your presentation at the conference. There's a few things in there that I think are going to be really interesting for people, and that people really share your values about enoughness and then the different forms that takes in people's approach to design. So I think it's going to be a really, really interesting presentation. So you're presenting and doing a separate workshop.
Yeah.
Do you want to just tell, you're mostly doing residential projects?
Yes, that's our focus work. Yeah.
And you're based in Hobart?
Correct. Yeah. But we do work all over Tassie. Yeah.
Very good. So I think if anyone's got some questions, there's a few comments coming through saying thank you. I don't know if you've got any specific questions. I'll just hang on the line for a minute, Jane. And
I will, for sure. Yeah.
See what comes through. So have you been speaking at other conferences? Is this something that how do you go about sharing your work approach?
Well, we're pretty active on social media about things like this, and also have on our webpage a big resource section that has a bunch of newsletters and articles and just thoughts on lots of things like this. So that's in the resource section of the website. Most recent newsletter was actually about using less, so that is there if anyone's really keen to have a bit more of a look at that. And I've done a few podcasts. Recently, there's 2 episodes with, you probably all heard of Undercover Architect. There are 2 episodes on enoughness, which is, that was a good conversation. So yeah, mainly it's just sharing the thoughts and ideas and resources on social media with anyone who wants to pick that up on the podcasts. And tonight I'm going to be speaking on a panel with Renew. So
great.
Yeah.
Are you finding most clients are approaching you because of the values that you hold and are already familiar with your work?
Yeah. Yes. And that's great. So yeah, we've already got this kind of on the same page, got great things to talk about. And they're really keen to look into it and explore, how far we can take it, really design to their values, so that their home is going to support the way they want to live. And that's, I really appreciate that.
There have been a couple of questions come in. Tommy has asked, how do you approach the issue of enoughness with clients?
Oh, it's a big question. Thanks. We always start with talking about their values. So everyone has their own values, and lots of us share similar values. So before we start talking about really functional brief things with clients, we're going to ask them, how do you want to live? What are your values? How does your home need to support the lifestyle you want to lead? And then everything flows through those values from there. So if there's a decision that comes up in terms of, I don't know, it might be room size, or is there a guest room or not? We look at their values, and is that contributing to them achieving their goals and their values? So that's probably the biggest.
It can be quite an exhaust. I mean, I know a lot of people won't have identified what their values are. I mean, are you starting right back at the beginning and sort of really helping people?
What we do with our process is we've probably already provided our potential clients with a bunch of tools and resources to work through on their own before we start working with them directly. So they've had some time to think about it and process it before we really get into that nitty-gritty stuff. So everyone's on a different journey or level of how far they've gone with it. And we have, just have to gauge that. And sometimes it is challenging. Sometimes there is, and this is the whole point. And hopefully I get into this at the festival. There's always going to be this tension between, often tension between people's values and what they're really wanting to achieve in terms of their impact on the planet. And then when it comes to briefing, what they want or what the wish list is. So there's always some tension there, which can be some challenging conversations. But I mean, I'm up for it. Some people are up for it. Some people aren't. Yeah.
It would be, I mean, it's interesting when you think about how those things shift through the process as well. And there are things people value, or think they should value compared to what they actually do value. And I can imagine it would be when you start really talking on that level with clients, it would be an interesting process. Deb has posted and said, thanks, Jane. The concept of enoughness is very pertinent with the current project where the client wanted a huge walk-in wardrobe. Thankfully, we were able to talk them out of wasting that space and creating a larger area for their kids. So it's not so much a question as a comment. But I guess that's a good example of, where you're allocating space.
I think we would all be very aware of these things now that have almost become a standard or a norm in briefs. And I'm just often like, why do they now become this thing that is on everyone's brief?
Real estate resale.
I can think of some others. I don't know. The butler's pantry seems to be, there's been a bit of discussion around that. So I think it's, I love asking clients questions about why. And look, some people have great, really valid answers for why that's important for them. If there isn't a good valid answer, or they go, why do I feel like I want that? Then that's an opportunity to think about it.
Yeah, nice. How exactly will the workshop work? Are you wanting us to give you the topics that we're interested in for the workshop, or are you?
Well, I have a general idea, but I'm really keen to hear what people want to talk about. So fire it at me, and I've left between now and the workshop open for me to tailor it to what's going to be most needed or what everyone wants. So
great. Well, we'll let everyone put their comments in, and we can give you some feedback at the end. So Lockie has said enoughness starts with the design brief. Do you start by triangulating the needs and wants and then working out the maximum parameters? People tend to be initially happy to start with limits, but then add things which come into their radar, which then are the new desires, similar to increasing a budget. What's your experience with that?
So you're kind of talking about scope creep. Yeah, cool. That's why starting with values and really making them important, I find, is a way that when that happens, and we have to practice recognizing when that's happening and have our radar on for that, putting it through that lens of the values so that you can have that discussion. Is this whatever it could be? Let's say, let's add a guest room, because I think we might need that one day, right? Let's look at the values and how is that contributing to you achieving those? Does that answer the question?
I think so. I think it's there are different levels that things tend to creep, whether it's space, whether it's materials and fit out, and once there's that sunken cost that people have invested into a project, they want to keep going and make it
definitely. Look, I'm also complexity. It's not always just size, it's often also complexity into the design or the build. That is there a line at where you're crossing over into beyond what's enough there. So it's an ongoing conversation throughout the whole process with a client. But I'm hoping, that I can help everyone listening to turn on that radar a little bit and have some confidence in having those discussions with clients, because it often can be quite hard. You do want to please your clients, and having a slightly challenging discussion about why they want something, it can often hold us back a little bit.
So Lockie's saying, I guess he was also wondering what percentage of people actually maintain their initial scope.
For me, it's not 100%. That one's perfect. Because we have a really strong focus on this, I'd have to say it's quite high. And it's also have that benefit because people are already coming to us knowing that that's going to happen, knowing that we are going to talk about these things and that they want to be challenged on those things. So because we work in this thing where, what's possible is as long as a piece of string, there's always going to be a bit of, discovery, I guess, through the process. Percentage, if I have to give a percentage, I would have to say 75%. Off the top of my
And
head.
I'd be interested to, probably following on from what Lockie said, it's just the creep that happens once you've completed your design work and the projects are actually being built. When do you get involved in construction of projects?
Yeah, we are. We leave that open to what the specific project needs and the people need. We work with a real big range of people that have different time and expertise capacity. So from owner builders to people that are all working full time and really don't have a lot of time. So it really depends on the project and what the specific client needs, and we're available as needed.
Because I guess a lot of what we're talking about is this decision making, and it's all the hundreds of decisions that get made along the way, and trying to continually putting them through that filter, which I imagine when they're working one-on-one with you in the design process is great, but then when you step back and they're working with the builder, probably
you can get a little eroded or a little overexcited, I guess.
Brendan has said, hi Jane, how do you negotiate the ground between what is good design and what is actually needed and what the market dictates? After all, the projects need to sell for us to have a job. So I guess that's where there's that tension with perceived resale value and
Good question. Look, I am willing to challenge what I think the market is wanting. I think there's a general popular idea of what the market's wanting. But if you have a look at some things, we have an aging population and we've also got a dwindling household size. So when I talk about household size, I think we're heading towards many more one-person households or two-people households. And if we think about our current, state of housing accessibility and affordability, I would have to say there's a really big market for smaller, more affordable homes. Yes, if we talk about resale and popular culture and TV shows and the media is telling us it has to be bigger and really appealing and in magazines and all of that. But is that really what we need? And to be honest, I don't take a huge much of notice around what the market's asking. I'm thinking about what's our future asking for. It's not sustainable if only 3% of the population can afford it, and that's what we're heading to.
I share your sentiments, Jane. There's another comment here. We'd love to hear about how you could incorporate low maintenance and livable housing. Are these difficult to accommodate when talking enoughness?
No, I don't think so. I mean, if we're talking about enoughness, like seriously, what's enough cleaning or painting for people to do? I mean, the thing that some one of the points about enoughness is that what most people, everyone wants in their life is to feel happy and have freedom. Having enough hanging over your head or not more than enough is what's going to give you that. So reducing maintenance is a big one. And livable, if we talk about livable housing, thinking about long-term housing for people, that's important as well. Aging gracefully in place, catering for various needs.
Jim has made a comment. So this is probably outside the scope of the question, but I think it's related. What about planned obsolescence? Can government play a role in the quality of general stuff? Sometimes I think it would be easier to unload the ships and take it straight to landfill.
You need to read the book I mentioned because they go into planned obsolescence in that, and that's a big one. Seriously, read that. There's this whole section in there about that.
Can you give us the title of the book again, Jane?
It's called Less is More, How Degrowth Will Save the World, and it's by Jason Hickel. It's got a green cover, big words, less is more. Can't miss it. I do a lot of thinking about that. There is a huge amount of stuff that's produced, as you said, that is made to fail after a certain amount of time. And that's just not responsible, is it? I guess we can think about that when we're designing homes, to incorporate things that are going to last for the long run. Thinking about kitchens, for example, the rotation of kitchens within homes is way too high, just the trend or what they look like. So when we think about what's enough, what's a kitchen for? Creating nourishing food for whoever's living there and families. What does it need to be then? And making it last for as long as it needs to last is what we need to be considering, I think.
Jo has said there's a problem at the moment with local government in that it is not easy to provide a number of homes attached on a site that previously contained one residence. And that is, looking at the density of homes and the bigger picture, I guess, of the density in communities is an interesting one as well.
Yeah, look, I was asked this question before and I don't have the answer to it, but I suggest what my thought on that is having more conversations with those people that are making those decisions will be sending a message that change is needed there. So more conversations about it, sending more messages around how that needs to change to cater for future needs, I think is a good thing that all of us could do if that's what we are advocating for.
Debbie has said certain TV build programs say they have sustainable passive design that are absolutely that big, not sustainable at all. She would rather see smaller homes that have design features that gives the dwelling an economical, healthy living. Instead of a guest room, there should be a wellbeing room. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. What was your name?
Debbie.
Hey, Debbie, I agree with you. One of my things is you often see the words luxury and sustainable together. And I'm like, they don't go together. That's not possible. The word luxury or the pursuit of luxury is what's got us into this mess. So I would always be wanting to ask some more questions and look a lot deeper into something that you say is really big or appealing to being luxury or high end, but also saying that it's also really sustainable. I just think that questions need to be asked there. Yeah.
Okay, I think that is the comments for now, unless I've missed any. That there's been lots of questions in the chat box. So I just would try and put the questions in the question box, and I can, if I've missed any, let me know. And hang on, there's one here. Andrew said, why is it that we allow conservative regulations and policy control which prevent the ability to have multi-generational living? And that is, the way we use our homes and catering just for that adaptability and multi-generational living is an interesting discussion as well.
Definitely. I've got some ways that I would work through it with clients. I think it's about, well, what have we got to work with right now? We've got planning schemes and regulations that we have to comply with now, but how can we look at them and go, okay, this is what I want to achieve. That's what I've got to work with. What room do I have within that? And sometimes it might not be what is already done. It might not be the status quo way to go, but can we creatively think about how we can do this? And sometimes it means adjusting our expectations of what living quarters are, what is shared space and what is private space. And that's a good thing we could look at in the workshop. If that's interesting to people.
Yes, so I think there's a little bit of food for thought there, and we'll certainly pass on any other comments. So if anyone has thoughts about what they would like to include in discussions with Jane, please contact Sarah Jane and she can pass on their thoughts.
Yeah, I would love that. Yeah.
And we will really look forward to seeing you in person at the conference. So hopefully we'll see you in a few weeks.
Yes, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Oh, hang on. No, but actually, there's more.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, we've got a couple more and I'll squeeze them in. Tori said, how do you argue enoughness to regulators who keep wanting to add more and more sustainability into our buildings, such as more and more insulation, various electrical devices and whatnot? Do we really need to be swanning around in the middle of the southern Australian winter in our houses in shorts and a tank top when a jumper keeps us just as warm?
Correct. Yeah, look, this is, I think, particularly at the moment, a rather bit of a controversial topic around if we're talking about energy efficiency and systems and things. Personally, I think there's a level of what's enough there. And there's a lot of inputting factors that are going to determine what that decision is for the particular project or the particular person. But I think before we, and this is something I'm going to touch on at the conference, before we're thinking about technologies, materials, and building fabric, if we firstly think about what is enough, and what are we going to design in the first place, we're going to make all of those decisions better that come after that. The whole energy efficiency is a slippery slope, and I probably do have some differing opinions to some other people, but I really enjoy having conversations about that and hearing what other people think, because I feel like what I think and talk about is just a contribution to the whole. But I do think there's a line that's enough, but it's going to differ to each person because everybody has a different level of enoughness.
Yes, and it's interesting. I mean, obviously now Tasmania have decided not to adopt 7-star efficiency for next, I think it'll be a few years, with 2025
or something. Yeah.
So and I
mean, it doesn't mean we can't do it still, but you know, we would everyone here is going to be highly aware of people's budgets, people's overall goals and what they're wanting to achieve, and just what is appropriate for that particular place and people. So I think we need to look at it through a lens of, well, what's the current situation, what we're working with right now, and what's a sensible, responsible way to go about that.
All right. Thank you, Jane. We'll let you go and we'll see you at the festival.
Awesome.
All right. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Okay, so our next presenter is Gaynor Lawton. Gaynor's background includes over 20 years in marketing and PR, event management and corporate fundraising in the UK and Australia. And Gaynor works with business owners, entrepreneurs and team leaders to discover what they really believe about money, their business and themselves. And this uncovers why their situation is as it is. Today, Gaynor is going to be discussing self-doubt, the enemy of good decision-making. Hi, Gaynor. Have we got you online? Hello, I can see you. I can't hear you.
There we are. How many times have I been on Zoom?
Yes, still catches that. Welcome.
Thank you.
Are you ready to go?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
I shall hand over to you.
Thank you. My name is
Frank. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. Gaynor. Hi, Frank. How are you? I can't hear you either, Frank.
Happens to the best of us.
Welcome. You're joining in with us?
Yes.
I've got a couple of questions for Frank.
Lovely. All right. Well, I will sign off and hand over to you.
Beautiful.
Thanks, Gaynor.
Thank you. And also, hi, Sarah Jane. I know you've got a couple of polls that I would really appreciate if you could put up. Based on one's about social media and one is actually your position, and they would really help me. Thank you. My name is Gaynor Lawton. I'm a business mentor, belief strategist, and an author. I'm very lucky to have with me today Frank Geskas, your president, or the president, sorry, of BDAA, who I'm just going to ask a couple of questions of before I get into the style of business mentoring that I do. So I met Frank very briefly earlier this year at the Victoria Design Awards, and he asked me what I did, and I said I was a business mentor, and he mentioned that he had a business coach for 15 years. So we're taking this opportunity to ask Frank a few questions about having a business coach, Unfortunately, we don't have the time today to go through what's the difference between a business coach and a business mentor. So I think it's safe to say that both of them offer support to people. In a business context, it doesn't have to be the president or the CEO. It can be anybody in business, a sole trader, an employee can engage a business coach or a business mentor. So, hi, Frank.
Hey, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for joining us. So my first question really to you is, why did you initially engage a business coach?
Early on in my business, I saw, it was through the BDAA, an ad to do time management. And I thought, man, I needed that. And I just started my business, and I was a little bit out of control, working stupid hours and trying to please everybody. And I thought I needed to investigate this further.
Right. And how did you find them? As in, did you know where to go to look for a coach? And how did you know it was a coach that could help you in that?
It actually came through the BDAA at the time, so in Tasmania. So one of the members was being coached, and he then put this, the committee at the time put an ad out for time management course, just a quick, simple one. And it was done at Campbelltown, the centre of Tassie, and we did it one night. And I then was really pleased with the course, so I decided to investigate further. They wanted to talk to me a bit further. So we ended up building a long-term relationship after that, because they offered so much more than just time management.
Yeah.
And it was just bizarre. It came through BD TAS at the time, through one of the members. So I hadn't considered business coaching at that stage. I didn't realise how good it was until I went through it.
Mm. And did you choose them, the person, sorry, first of all, have you been with the same coach for 15 years?
Yes.
Yes, fantastic. And when you initially chose them, was there something about them? Did you just click, or was it their particular experience was similar to the field you were in? Was there a particular reason you chose them?
Everything they spoke about resonated with me.
Okay.
The time management, obviously, because I was floundering. Then they spoke about, and the time management wasn't what I thought it was. It was changing my mindset. And it kind of blew my mind at the time. Says, hang on, my mindset, what's this? And it took me on this journey, and I learned time management was only one small portion out of this. These guys taught me so much stuff and coached me. And remember, it is coaching. So it's not helping you do it, it's guiding you in the right direction. And we did click, and years later I found out how frustrated they were with me for the first couple of years, because I'm still trying to run my business, try and be coached, and it took me a while to get some of this stuff.
Right. And is there anything, I mean, 15 years is a long time, so I'm sure there's a lot of things, but is there anything in particular that sort of stands out for you that they told you or they suggested to you that you have kept with you?
Well, the big standout for me with these guys is that they were developing their own business at the same time as developing my business. They were developing their business. Mm-hmm. And they pulled no punches on things that worked and did not work on their own business. And they shared that. They were very honest on their own failures and successes, and vice versa. We shared ours as well. But from everything from changing my mindset to personal development, those were the massive things. The personal development, where they guide you in the right direction, but it's up to you to then grab that and then read books, go to webinars, videos, all sorts of stuff, and just keep absorbing the information. And it's just endless. And there's heaps of books, and there's a lot of, can I just say, there's a lot of bullshit out there too.
Yeah, yes, I can agree.
And you've got to go through that to appreciate what works for you and doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because you've got to be real careful, because I believe there's some coaches that haven't got all they're more about making money for themselves rather than genuinely interested in you. So you've got to be a bit cautious of it, I think.
Yeah, thank you. And the final question really is, how often will you engage with your coach? And do you see them face to face, or is it remotely like this? And is it the same, regular time each week, month, whatever?
Well, their business is developed, so they coach people all over Australia and New Zealand now,
Right.
and they've niched themselves. So generally it is over Zoom, but we do catch up face to face. I'm fortunate they're in Tasmania, so I can catch up with them face to face anytime I like. Now, a number of my managers and staff are coached by them as well. They come in and join in the group trainings that they hold, and they hold those every 2 months. So, and there's always topics that's well prepared. 2 days of on the Zoom, what they call intensives, and they're very intense, and you're mentally exhausted by the end of it. But you come out of it with a real buzz, and if you follow, what you've been taught, and you're not going to get it straight away. I'll just say straight up, you're not going to get it straight away. You've got to keep plugging at it. You've got to keep going, and not give up, because it's invaluable what you can pick up with this. And I just wrote a few notes on all the different topics that I've learned over time, and it's extraordinary.
Yeah. And I think you hit on there the last two answers. Was you're given the information in various forms, books, webinars, one-on-ones, whatever it is. If you don't action it, it falls on deaf ears. It's not actually going to change your life, or your time management is going to stay the same if you don't implement what they are suggesting to you. So it is a two-way relationship.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. Coaching, just like an AFL, NRL, what you're into, they'll put you all through all the training, but you're by yourself on the field.
Yeah.
So it's up to you, as good as the preparation that you put in outside of work, as well. And immerse yourself in it.
Yeah.
And they bring in new topics and philosophies and things, and things they will implement and try themselves. That to me is a true great coach, is that they're willing to try it in their own businesses. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, fine, they'll say it. And you break it down, you analyse.
Yeah.
Also, the other people that are being coached, I have great relationships with those business owners as well. And that's wonderful, where you can bounce stuff off each other outside the main group. So for me, that's been excellent. I've been doing that for a thing called a mastermind with a couple of colleagues in Launceston for, we're doing that nearly for 8 years, catching up for lunch and just bouncing stuff off each other.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Frank. As you know, I'm going to be at the conference. I'm running a workshop on business mentoring, and what I want to do today is just sort of give an idea of the style that I use. So yeah, I really appreciate you coming on and giving your opinion and your views. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thanks. So what I'd like to do now is, I've actually called my presentation Self-Doubt, the Enemy of Good Decision Making. And there's a reason for that. I first of all want to preface what I'm talking about by saying that I believe mentoring is a privilege. It is definitely a relationship based on trust. Asking for help is not the easiest of things in any area of your life. And once you have engaged a business mentor, opening up and being honest is probably the best way for the issue to be resolved, or the business to grow, whatever it is that you're coming to the business mentor for. So I just wanted to say that, because I really don't take this work lightly. I really do appreciate it. So if you were to Google what are the top 4 reasons that small businesses fail, you're going to find in a varying order: lack of funding, having the wrong people either in your business or around you, a faulty infrastructure, or maybe not the right type of business model set up, and poor marketing. So they're the top 4 in varying orders. Now, I like to take that a step further and look at it and say, well, somebody made a poor decision at some point. for those businesses to get to that point. So if the business is leaking funds, somebody made the decision not to stop it. So for me, I look at self-doubt and decisions that have been made. Now, there's an author, Brian Christopher. He's written a book called Entrepreneurial Mindset, which was printed in 2020. And he says that the biggest killer of the entrepreneurial dream is doubt, whether it's of yourself, of your surrounding, or of your ability. Now, back in 2018, I did my own research for my book, Believe in Your Business, and came to the conclusion that self-doubt is in fact an epidemic on a global scale, paralyzing society. So this huge statement is actually backed up with many reports. I looked at self-doubt. For self-doubt, we can also say lack of confidence. There's a sort of an umbrella of terms, but I'm saying self-doubt to keep it on track. I've got reports of when and where and why males have self-doubt, females have self-doubt, and people generally, regardless of their gender. So when I came across this information, I'd already changed and started to look at my work as a mentor differently. And when I started doing the research and saw this, that's when I changed completely the way I manage and work with clients. So according to the Australian Banking Association, and I'm using them because it was a simpler way for me to give this information. So at the moment in Australia, there are 2.4 million businesses. 2.35 million of those are classed as SMEs, which is small to medium-sized enterprises. Just under 2/3 of those are sole traders, and just over 1/3 employ less than 19 people. And so if there is an epidemic of self-doubt, which is causing people to avoid a lot of things in life, it is going to have an impact on the people running a business. So this caused me to reshape the way I looked at things from my business. Yes, I can look at the practicalities with you. So the business planning, financial forecasting, marketing campaigns. But if my client has the slightest doubt that what we're talking about in our meeting or what we're putting into the business plan, if they're doubting that that's going to work, it will have an impact on how the business develops. How do I know this? Because the work that I do is based on the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza and Dr. Bruce H. Lipton, who are both scientists and are currently disrupting conventional science by proving two major factors. Thought alone can change your body, and thought alone can change the brain. These new sciences within quantum mechanics are known as epigenetics and neuroplasticity. And I love conversations about those. So if you see me at the conference, please talk to me about them. So what I have done is I have built my mentoring business around the belief system. Why? Because at the core of every doubt is a belief. So I'm going to give you a very simple example. It's quite a common one, but I'll just give you a simple example to show you how I would work through something with a client. So firstly, what is a belief? A belief is just a thought that you keep thinking until it becomes real or true to you. What is a doubt? So my definition of a doubt is it's the point at which a belief or a thought that you have kicks in and causes you to reconsider something. So it kind of stops you in your track and you might make a different decision, or you might just take a few steps back. So let's say I'm working with a client and they are doubting how much to charge for their services. And they're saying things like, am I charging too much? Will my client be able to afford it? Have I been in the industry long enough? How can I charge the same as somebody? I've only been in it for 2 years, the same as someone that's been in it for 20 years. Now, my role is not to say to them, oh, you should charge this much. My role is to see why they're questioning their own value. So we'd have a conversation. I'm just really making this brief now. We'd have a conversation. So I see my role as bringing in topics, all sorts of different topics. We don't just talk about the price of the service, but I listen, and I'm getting very good at hearing people's truths or beliefs, what they really, really believe. So let's say we pick up the belief that they have, and they think, I'll never be rich. And this is quite a common thought that people have. It doesn't always come out, but it's certainly a thought that a lot of people have. So where do our beliefs come from? Where might this belief have come from? Majority of beliefs that we hold, we've gathered together between being born and age 7. So the predominant home environment that we live in, whether it's with parents or carers or between parents, wherever it is, whatever's going on in our home environment, that's where we start to take on board the belief systems of our parents or our carers. Observation is another thing. So for example, especially if we were smaller, when we're smaller, if you were bitten by a dog or you saw a dog bite somebody, you will automatically and quite rightly start believing that that particular breed of dog or all dogs are dangerous. Okay, and that's true. We're also given the information through our schooling, uni, any study that we do. And another important area that we are given information is when we want to be like our peers. So in our sort of teenage years, early 20s, you'll have groups of people who all believe the same. And if you want to be part of that group, you have to take on some of those beliefs as well. So coming back to the client, we would explore, where do you think you got that belief from? And the client might say something like, well, my brother's really really financially successful. You know, he's a doctor, for example. And, you know, he's very financially secure, and my sister is doing whatever, and she's also financially secure. And I'm the only one who's not really financially secure. And I've also heard my mum and dad maybe, you know, pass comment that I'm the one who hasn't made the money yet. So it could be little things like that. Now, once that belief has been discovered and we've explored where it might have come from, sometimes the client just goes, oh my gosh, how ridiculous. That's what I'm thinking. That's not true. Yes, my brother and sister are successful, but they're in totally different industries to me. And I actually don't want to make that much money anyway. That's not my definition of rich. So at that point, that belief could dissipate. And that client is able to then continue on, know exactly how much they want to charge for their services, and it's clear. Now, it doesn't always happen that simply. Sometimes I have to help them with what I call removing the belief, which I'm not going to go into right now, but there are various different ways that we can do that. What I do want to just say before I finish is, if you don't challenge your beliefs, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you've been trying to do something and it's just not working out, you're either sabotaging yourself, or sometimes, you know, you get some money and you think, oh, brilliant, you know, I've got 4 or 5 grand or something, just out of nowhere, somehow it came. And then all of a sudden the car breaks down and it needs, you know, $4,500 worth of service on it. So if things like that happen to you, I wouldn't argue, but I would argue that your belief system is in the way. Your belief system is saying something and you're behaving in a different way. Now, unless we challenge our beliefs, it's usually only times when we have what I call a near miss. So you might know yourself of some stories where somebody was in, you know, maybe a car accident or an accident of some sort. And it was at that point that they reevaluated their whole life. It doesn't have to be that drastic. It could be that a relationship ended, you know, very abruptly and took the person by surprise. And they turned around and thought, right, I'm going to get on with my life. I didn't like that life anyway. I've got to change things. So I had a similar thing happen to me. It's not a huge tragedy, but through stress, my face paralyzed. And it was one of the biggest shocks I've ever had, partly because I absolutely didn't see it coming. I had a little pain on the side of my face, and by that evening, I couldn't close my eye. I couldn't move the right side of my face. And the only thing that brings it on, it was a strain of Bell's palsy, which is very common. The only thing that brings it on is stress. Okay, so I'm talking about self-doubt, but when you have self-doubt, that leads to worry, and worry is stress, and it's a great big ball. It's all very similar. And so it was at that time, which was 2013 for me, when I actually started to look at my own life and what I believed and the areas that I questioned my ability. That was my big thing. Am I capable? Have I got the ability to do these things? And so that's kind of how this has all come together. So once the belief has been discovered and the client wants to remove it or removes it or just decides not to think like that again, then it frees that person up to make different decisions, i.e. good decisions. So that's how I approach my work with the client. It might sound a little bit elongated. It's not that complicated. It's a lot of fun. It can be quite revealing. That's why I talk about the trust that's between myself and my clients. And I have seen, not that this should be really a marker, but I have seen grown men cry when they realize what has been holding them back and what has been the thing. And it was, you know, wanting to please their father or something like that, which might not seem a big thing until it is. Okay. So the presentation or the workshop that I'm doing at the conference is called Rebuilding Your Business. And we're looking at where businesses are at now after the global pandemic. We were all forced to do things a little bit differently. So now I feel it's the time that we can sort of regroup, take stock, and look at moving forward. And because you're all creatives, I'm going to do similar to Jane. There's going to be lots of paper and textures and bits and pieces around. And what I'm hoping to do is get you thinking about your thoughts, because your thoughts ultimately become your beliefs. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Gaynor. There's a few comments that have come through and a couple of questions. There's lots of food for thought in there, and I think I'm really interested to listen to in more detail what you've got to say at the conference. I just want to note too that you are giving away one of your courses valued at $1,800 at the trade show.
Yes, I am.
Thank you very much. So this is another reason to register and attend the trade show. So George has said he was lucky to win a coach via Census competition, and he loved that it helped him improve his business online. And Peter has said he engaged a business coach in 2000, and within 2 years his income had more than doubled and his working hours were halved. He highly recommends it. Debbie has asked, how do you first get to engage with a successful business coach? Any suggestions for business coaches in South Australia?
A coach in particular, I would suggest you go to a coach institute. They are national and they will definitely have areas in different parts of the country. And what's really interesting is when you Google for a business mentor, it's hard to find us. You can find mentors that are in particular industries. And so not a sporting coach, but a sporting mentor. You can find a mentor within a sporting environment. Within business, it's not that easy. You will find that coaches come up. There are differences. This is what we hadn't really got time to go through. There are differences in them with how they operate, which is why I wanted to show you my style, because not obviously we're all going to be different. We're all going to work with our clients differently. And I think that's what it will come down to, is what is it that you want? There are some people who will just set you goals because that's what you want, and you will reach those goals, and then the next one, the next one, the next one. And interspersed, like Frank was saying, is very much about your mindset. So I focus on the belief system. I call myself a belief strategist as well as a business mentor, because people say, what's a belief strategist? But the belief area is kind of my niche area. So yeah.
Interesting. Peter's just made a comment, which is perhaps a bit relevant. He said he went to a business conference in 1999. His business coach was one of the presenters. He spoke to him at lunch and they hit it off. He said the biggest thing is to decide that you want to do this and then make it happen. And I think that possibly is one of the first steps, is deciding that it's something you want to pursue.
Yeah, and you don't have to engage for a block of time. I offer a 2-hour, I call it an introduction, and in that time lots and lots of information can come out. You don't even have to come with your particular subject or particular area that you want to that you're interested in developing. In 2 hours, it's amazing what can come out. So I offer, I think that's on my website, I offer that 2-hour session. I also offer a 20-minute freebie just to have a conversation with me to see whether what your challenge is something that I could work with. And that we can feel that there is a connection and it's worth it. I think the connection between two people, it's like, when you go to anybody on a regular basis, you wouldn't go to anybody that was annoying, I don't think. So it gives us that opportunity before you commit to anything. But you can have casual sessions, or what I've actually developed is a 12-session program called Believe in Your Business, which is generically for business owners. For the conference, I've created 3 different packages specifically for BDAA or attendees of the conference and the trade show, which is mostly on the practical side. So if you haven't got a business plan or you want to revisit your business plan, that's one of the packages that I've included, and the financial side of things, because so much happened in the last 2.5 years for everybody that your old forecasting, your old business plan may no longer serve, be on track.
Sure. I think we're going to have to wind up because we're running out of time.
Yep.
Sarah Jane has just posted your details on there for anybody that wants to contact you directly, and we'll look forward to seeing you in a few weeks in Melbourne.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks.
So thank you, everyone. That will wrap up the meeting. I think we've got two great presenters. So thank you very much to Jane and Gaynor, and thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you all got something out of that, and I really hope that you're going to be joining us at the conference at the end of October. Please reach out to Sarah Jane if you've got any questions, and if you haven't registered and you do want to take advantage of that offer for the early bird rate still, message her directly. I think there's going to be a lot of really, really interesting content at the conference. Because of the conference, there won't be an online chapter meeting in November, and the next meeting will be at 1 p.m. on the Tuesday, the 6th of December. How quickly the end of the year is approaching. So bye for now. We will look forward to seeing you either at the conference, and if you can't make that, we will look forward to seeing you at the next online chapter meeting. Okay, bye.